Welcome to What the Fantasy. This is our 30th episode. I am Brandon Hay, and you can find me on Twitter at HeyB3.
I am Zareh Kentabedian, and I'm at ZCantsFF on Twitter. I didn't know that. That was our 30th episode. That's cool.
Yes, it's our 30th episode. We made it. You had your short hiatus, but you're here for the majority of them. So
Yeah, back. Let's get into it.
yeah, so actually, a lot of the content tonight we're going to do are tweets or things you replied to that I saw. I know I told you that I turned on the notifications for you, so everything you tweet or reply to just floods my Twitter. So it gives me something to look through. So I saw a couple, and this one was I'll let you kind of explain it about the range for what we say wide receiver twos could be. So go ahead and give what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I put out a tweet stating that I think wide receiver twos should be like basically in a 12-team league, wide receiver two ranges between wide receiver 13 and 24 on the year, right? So I was looking at the numbers and points per average points per game scored within those receivers, and the points are similar. Those points scored are similar to receivers that are outside of that range as well. Like, right. So like, here's an example, right? So in 2021, wide receivers 13 through 24 in half PPR leagues scored an average of 12.6 points per game, right? If you extend that out, it's to wide receivers 13 through 36, it's 11.8. And if you extend that out even further, 12 through wide receivers 13 through 48, it's 11 points. So right, there isn't like a huge disparity in points, maybe like 0.6 more points per game between wide receivers 13 and 48 on the year, right? That's points scored per game. So I think it helps us. I think it helps people kind of like rank players. I think we should. I think instead of just putting players in a strict, in strict 13 through 24, that's your wide receiver two. That's the way it's always been done. I think you can start looking at wide receivers in like large groups, like this, for example, 13 through 48. These guys are scoring, they're scoring 11 points per game pretty much, right? Or you can look at it as 12 points per game. There isn't much disparity. But I think it's like when you want to rank wide receivers going forward, I think it's probably best to rank them like in expected points per game, right? So like when you're looking at like there wasn't really much disparity also like between like wide receivers 1 through 12, right? Where we normally would consider wide receiver ones in fantasy football. In 2021, wide receivers 1 through 12 scored an average of 14.7 points per game. That's 2 more points than the wide receiver twos that were in the 13 through 24 points. So that's enough of a disparity. Like 2 more points per game is enough of a disparity. And then when you look at wide receivers 1 through 5 in 2021, they were scoring 17.8 points per game. So there's even more of a disparity there between the 1 through 12. So it's just something I was thinking about, the group, the way we look at wide receivers and the way we define wide receiver twos. And, wide receiver two is just so much more broad now. There's so much more qualifying receivers, especially now that we have more receivers on the field more often. You have more guys putting up more points through the air, catching the ball.
I think that's very interesting how you kind of said that, and I kind of put on the show sheet. It kind of depends on, are we saying when we do like rankings for like wide receiver twos, are we trying to say who we're trying to really predict to get in the that 13 through 24 range, or are we trying to say all the players that we think has a possibility to get there? Because I think those are two separate things.
Right. So yeah, it's basically all the players who could possibly end up in there, because there's so many receivers that can put up, 11 points, any given week, or 10 points any given week, especially in PPR leagues, right? It's not that hard of an accomplishment to do. Now, when you're putting up 17 points a week, like wide receivers 1 through 5, or even 14.7 points, which is basically 15 points per week per week, that's also something that's notable, right? But when you try to when the bar gets lower to 12 points, 11 points, 10 points, that's not hard. You could really find that anywhere. You can find the Van Jefferson and KJ Osborne. You can find, any wide, you can find maybe like a You could find maybe Nico Collins this year or something like that, like a wide receiver that could put up wide receiver 2 numbers. So I think like I didn't even go further. Maybe I didn't even go further than the wide receiver 48 from 2021. So it could go even further. Like there isn't much of it looks like the trend is like that there's just an elite, like there's 1 through 5, and then there's 1 through 12, and then there's just a bunch of wide receiver 2s until like you probably get to like wide receiver like 50 or something like that. I don't know. Or wide receiver, yeah, wide receiver, 60, because up to wide receiver 40, 50, like it's 11 points per game.
Yeah, and so you averaged out like that all of their numbers in each range you did, correct? Is that how you did it? So you took like 13 through 24
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
okay.
So 13 through 24. Yeah.
Because what I kind of like to do when I do it is take like a player on the edge. So like say I could compare like player like 13 because they're the top of the wide receiver 2 and compare them to maybe like wide receiver like 30 or something and then do the same thing on wide receiver like 24 like the very end of that and say like wide receiver like 36 to see like what you like from those two extremes,
Right.
like what you're really missing. But I do agree you could probably extend. I don't know if I would extend it necessarily as far as you've been talking about, but it's definitely the wide receiver 2 should probably be well into the 30s, at least where people that are looking for rankings and everything, they can see that they can wait around to get their second wide receiver and still get someone that's well within the range of still finishing in the top 24. So I think that's definitely a good point because I know a lot of people like to think of it just like 24 cutoff line, but you're really not losing a ton, and you might gain more in drafting a running back, and then a wide receiver or something like that.
Right. Yeah. And so like if we're looking at the way you're saying, like measuring the top of each threshold, right? So wide receiver 13 put up 13.2 fantasy points per game. That was Keenan Allen. Then we have wide receiver 37. They put up 12 fantasy points per game, which was Terry McLaurin. And then wide receiver, what is this? Okay, wide receiver 12, wide receiver 13. Okay, no, wide receiver 25 put up 12 points per game, which was Terry McLaurin. And then wide receiver 37 put up 10.2 points per game, which was, I don't know, I can't find it right now. But I'm just saying, like, there still wasn't much of a disparity. Well, between the wide receiver 37 and wide receiver 13, there was 2.1 points of difference between a gap of how many
So I
wide
mean
receivers
that
that
yeah,
is.
that just shows like if you get someone, say anyone from like 25 to probably like 30, it's going to be less, much maybe just like a little over 1 point per game. So yeah, I think that's a good way to look at that, especially when you're drafting your team and everything and kind of trying to figure out comparing players because no, I do agree that I think there's obviously less in the wide receiver that can turn into wide receiver ones, but I think it's probably larger than it has been. You could probably name 15 to 16 receivers that you could see a scenario where they could finish as a wide receiver 1, and then
Yeah.
as we've seen, you could probably go into the 40s for the wide receiver 2 situation,
Yeah.
depending how it goes. I do wonder with the more games if we're going to see teams rest players a game or two here more since there's
Yeah.
17 games.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting if that kind
Yeah.
of changes.
Another interesting stat is that the wide receiver ones dating back to 2018, right? So they've all scored similarly per week, right? In 2021, the wide receiver ones scored 14.7. In 2020, it was 15 points per game, on average of 15 points per game. 2019, 14 points per game. And 2018, 16 points per game. So it was kind of like between that 14 to 16 point range for wide receiver ones dating back to 2018. But 14 points seems to be like the bare minimum for wide receiver ones.
Okay, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, so if you're thinking, especially in PPR, I mean that makes sense because those wide receiver ones are probably at least getting 5 or 6 catches a game. You would,
Yeah.
so Okay, so this next one was another one. I don't know. Did you this Devontae Smith versus the rookie wide receivers, or I think it was the 105? I've seen a couple of people talk about this. Did you comment or reply to someone on Twitter about this?
Yeah, I said
This
I'd take
Kevin.
Devontae Smith over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot I was speaking to you, but I said I would confidently take Devontae Smith over every single rookie in the 2022 class.
Okay, every single rookie.
Every
So
single one.
I said I just narrowed down to wide receivers. I did the top five. Garrett Wilson, Traylon Burks, Drake
Yeah.
London, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams. So there are some receivers I would take over Devontae Smith.
Mhm.
Even though I love Chris Olave, I wouldn't take him because I think they're similar type players. And Devontae, shown that I wouldn't take him over Drake London. I've not been a huge Drake London fan, and I think Devontae has the better separation ability. I like Jameson Williams, but I just wonder, if he's just going to be a deep threat. I would take Garrett Wilson and Traylon Burks over Devontae Smith. I think Traylon Burks has a higher ceiling. It'll be interesting to see.
So I'm sorry, this is for fantasy football or is just as as a wide receiver in general?
We can do it both ways. I think I would do it. I would do it the same for either way.
So you take Burks over. You think Burks is a better receiver than Devontae Smith in real life and in fantasy football?
Like overall, he's probably not an overall better receiver right now, but I think he could get you better production than Devontae Smith. And
Okay.
are we doing it based on what their situations currently, or just like in a vacuum?
Yeah, I was discussing both exactly. Yeah, I was doing the same thing too. But like for me, Devontae Smith is such a he's the gap is so much more wider for Devontae Smith that's going to carry over. That's going to translate well into fantasy football for me. I'm not worried about AJ Brown being on the Eagles over there. Devontae Smith's capabilities as a route runner and a technician and his athleticism and his intelligence, his awareness, everything about him is so much more mature to me when I see him play than any of these wide receivers. These wide receivers, they're all they're gifted in certain ways. And it's more, I feel like, more narrowed down the way they're gifted. Maybe Garrett Wilson's probably the best out of these receivers, in my opinion. But I think Devontae Smith is just so much more mature as a receiver that would translate to better fantasy production. That's kind of what I was saying.
Okay, I'm going to, on the fly, change what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'm only picking Garrett Wilson over him because the
Okay.
Traylon Burks, I think his ceiling is still high, just like his because of what he can do on the field, but he does have so much of the nuance of the receiver. He's still very raw in that. So in that part, Devontae would have the longevity because he's able to run those crisp routes, and he should be getting more single coverage even with AJ Brown there. But I guess situational, I'm a little worried about Garrett Wilson. One, because we would have to see Zach Wilson really develop for him to reach his potential, and also with them having Elijah Moore there, I really don't know what the split is really going to be there. Because I think the Falcons and the Jets should have swapped receivers because the Falcons have Pitts, the bigger receiver, and then to have Garrett Wilson, the more technician.
I agree.
Everything they kind of got the same type of receiver.
Drake,
and then the Jets got two like smaller receivers. I think if they switched, that would have been better for both teams.
I absolutely agree. Drake London would have complemented Elijah Moore so much more better.
So yeah, but yeah, I think we're going to get into this. Actually, let's get into this with the Dynasty trades. So the three trades I put on the sheet that we're going to go over all happened in the same league. The first two I completed, and the third one was two other people in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, I gave up Elijah Moore and pick 112 of the rookie draft, and I got AJ Brown and Nico Collins. And a lot of people in the league thought I lost the trade by a lot. Do you think the value of AJ Brown has gone down so much because of people not believing Jalen Hurts is not a good quarterback?
No, well, I think that might play into it because but Okay, so I don't think it's a losing trade. I think it's fine. I mean, 112 in a rookie draft this year doesn't get you anything really compared to, I mean, it'll get you like a Nico Collins. You might get George Pickens, but I mean, Nico Collins is fine. I like Nico Collins. I think the perception is yes that Jalen Hurts is not an inferior passer, but he's just an adequate passer, and Nick Sirianni covers that up through the heavy emphasis of the run game in Philadelphia, right? So we don't know yet that's going to happen, and this unknown is scary, and the unknown is a negative in fantasy football. It's not ever a positive, and unknown is perceived always as a negative. All right, AJ Brown being there, it's AJ Brown's going to AJ Brown. I'm not worried about what AJ Brown's going to do. AJ Brown's always succeeded on low volume, low volume drawn up plays through the run game, which is what the Titans did, right? They drew up plays for AJ Brown. And if Sirianni has any sense, he's an NFL coach, we should assume that he has sense in how to draw up AJ Brown. We saw him try to create bubble screen passes for Quez Watkins countless times. It was nauseating. I couldn't watch it anymore. We saw him try to design passes for Quez Watkins last year, right? So he knows how to draw up passes, and he knows how to scheme players like AJ Brown, who are monsters after the catch, right? So I think we're going to see them occupy different parts of the field and different parts of the game. So no, I think it's just people that there's like, oh, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, right? Ryan Tannehill wasn't an amazing passer, right? Ryan Tannehill exists because the run game is so effective. He's successful because the run game is so effective. So we have to draw back, I think, those fears. And AJ Brown's value, it might have taken a slight hit, maybe because of the unknown, like I said before. But if anything, it's a lateral move to me.
Yeah, I will say that for AJ Brown, I've always been very high on him. I just think he's so talented. The thing is, he can't stay healthy. Even 2 years ago when he played most of the games, he had messed up knees all year. Last year he had the injuries, and you saw when he came back against San Francisco, he had that huge game on Thursday night. So I'm a big fan of him, and he did drop a little bit. He was top 5. Now he's around like probably 8 or 9 wide receiver wise. And I actually think too how Jalen Hurts scrambles and how you can kind of usually in the scramble drill you kind of can just like throw it up, and AJ Brown can go get those. So I think that will add some of those plays that he might not get with the the passing. And don't get me wrong, Elijah Moore is one of my favorite wide receivers from the rookie class last year, but everyone's acting like he's already made it. I mean, he had like 500 yards last year. I know he was injured. I know that offense wasn't great, and most of those yards were not with Zach Wilson. That's when Zach Wilson was out and Mike White was the quarterback. And with the 112, that's kind of like our wide receiver 2 talk. Like that's why I got Nico Collins, because I could see him being a back end wide receiver 2, kind of that guy that could like creep in. So I wanted some sort of, because 112, I've been getting Jahan Dotson there, those kind of receivers that could be like the wide receiver 2-3 range. And I just take AJ Brown because he's going to be able to do things that just Elijah Moore isn't capable of doing. I mean, Elijah Moore is very good, but he can't, just necessarily dominate a game because AJ Brown has that size and speed kind of combo. And, I just think AJ Brown has that ability to be a top 5 receiver. And I don't necessarily know if Elijah Moore does.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So, just that in that on the Eagles, I'm very interested in how their offense is going to change. Because there was a game last year. I don't remember if it was a playoff game or what game, but Devonta Smith wasn't even getting targeted like through the third quarter. So that makes me worry a little bit. But like you said, Sirianni, his first time being a head coach, maybe he's learned, and everything. So, maybe another year with Jalen Hurts. But I think it is exaggerated how, the effect that Hurts would have on AJ Brown, because like we said, Tannehill has horrible games. He's had some good games, but he's very inconsistent, and they're probably I don't think the drop off from Tannehill to Hurts is very much.
I mean, when you look at what Ryan Tannehill did in the playoffs and what Jalen Hurts did to the playoffs, it's almost the same thing. Jalen Hurts like tanked the playoffs pretty hard, but that was against the Bucs. That was against the Bucs in Tampa Bay, right? And the Eagles defense was atrocious. I mean, their secondary was really bad. And then you look at what Ryan Tannehill, how he lost, to the Cincinnati Bengals, like their defense, the Titans defense, I think got 6 or 8 sacks on Joe Burrow, and you still lose the game. Like Ryan
Yeah, it
Tannehill
was insane. I think they said that was like the most sacks given up and someone still won a game or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely insane. So move on to this next pick or this next trade. So I got a lot of crap over this trade too, and I still stand by what I did. So I did Rashad Bateman. It was supposed to, at first it was Rashad Bateman, pick 204 for the pick 105, and he kind of wanted more, so I just threw in Tim Patrick. I don't expect much from Tim Patrick, to be honest. He had Jerry Jeudy, so he wanted Tim Patrick with, it was after the kind of the news of what might be going on with Jerry Jeudy, so he wanted kind of a safety net, anything anyway. So I did this, and the main reason I did this trade was I had the 104 and I wanted the 105 because I wanted to double tap the picks and get Kenneth Walker and one of the wide receivers. It ended up being Drake London. So Kenneth Walker and Drake London, because even though I'm not a huge Drake London fan, I think Drake London has a much better chance of being a wide receiver one than Rashad Bateman in that Baltimore offense. So let me get your thoughts on this trade.
I understand giving Tim Patrick away. He is 28 years old right now, and he's nearing the end of his career as wide receivers go. Rashad Bateman is the wide receiver one right now on that Ravens offense, and I don't think that's going to change when the season starts. There's nobody left in free agency, I believe, that will threaten that status and position. I'd rather have Rashad Bateman than, again, I'd rather have Rashad Bateman than any of these receivers. I love Rashad Bateman. The 204, I mean, it seems like you gave up a lot. I understand wanting to get, it's not really like, it's not like a wrong move you did. It's for me, when I approach Dynasty, I take proven talent over talent we just don't know what they're going to do yet, right? And Kenneth Walker isn't that significant to me right now because of where he's at, and that he probably won't be receiving back. He's over there with Rashad Penny for at least a year. And then you wanted Drake London. That's fine. Drake London's good, but I like Tim Patrick a lot better. I think basically, I think Bateman, Patrick, and the 204 are going to get you more fantasy points this year than what the 104 and 105 could get you this year. And next year is a different conversation that's projected a little too far.
Well, and because I got in a little bit of a tiff in the group chat of the league because they're talking. I said I just think receivers in the Baltimore offense are limited, and Lamar can. My stance has always been Lamar can be a limited passer, not a bad passer. I'm just saying limited to his ceiling and still be a top 5 fantasy quarterback or a top 5 quarterback because he brings so much electricity with his running ability. And then they're talking about Marquise Brown last year. Had over 90 catches. Yes, he had over 90 catches. And in PPR, he still finished as wide receiver 22. So, I mean, you're not going to probably get more, catches than that in that offense. So, at the top of that, unless that receiver gets double-digit touchdowns, which is going to be hard with Mark Andrews, I just don't think that I love Bateman too, but I just don't think Bateman or most receivers, unless they're a top 5 receiver in the league, are going to be able to get a wide receiver one. And like you said, maybe Drake London never gets there. But I was willing to make that, especially after I made the A.J. Brown trade, because I've got A.J. Brown, I got T. Higgins, and then, Nico, and then, Drake London. So he would be slotting in at 3 anyway. You're
also going to have Drake London on a team, right? So, you're going to have Bateman, and he's got Mark Andrews to compete with. Now you're going to have Drake London, who's got Kyle Pitts to compete with, who's also got Marcus Mariota throwing him the ball. If it's not Marcus Mariota, it's going to be Desmond Ridder, and Desmond Ritter's not that good either. So it's kind of like, I get it. It just comes down to a simple fact of you not really believing too much in Lamar Jackson as a proficient passer. So, that's opinion, and Lamar Jackson's status, that's still a conversation, we don't talk about certain quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson in that conversation because they've proven it. They're as efficient as it comes. and they are top tier passers. Lamar Jackson hasn't proved it yet. Yeah, it's questionable decision making, and it's a fair concern. So I get it.
Right. And comparison, I do understand, the offense. I guess maybe I'm a little higher on Mariota because he looked, I know it was in limited time with the Raiders, but he looked better. And in Tennessee, I just don't think they had very good, weapons for him. And the Falcons can't really run the ball. I mean, still, they really didn't address that really. And where the Ravens are good at running the ball, especially with Lamar, it might change with Mariota. And like you said, I think Ritter needs to sit. I mean, fair concerns about all of that. So this next one, I definitely think one side is lost this. So just to preface this, the person that traded for Juju in this is a huge Juju fan. I kind of make fun of him all the time because he just, we always get in arguments about how good Juju is. And he originally was possibly going to give up the 112 that I traded him for Juju, but this is what he did. Juju and the 407, which is pretty much whatever, for Robbie Anderson, Michael Gallup in that 204. So I lean the side of Robbie Anderson, Michael Gallup in the 204 by quite a big margin.
This is a probably slight overpay, but not as much as it looks like. Juju is, I believe Juju. I have Juju ranked high in my dynasty. I believe he's top for 15 rankings for me. I probably should go back and adjust that. I was very excited about him, and I should probably go back and look at that. But he's probably going to be my top 20 dynasty rankings. I think he's a very good receiver. He's good at really what he does as a receiver, and being tied to Patrick Mahomes is not a bad thing ever. I think really, I love Sky Moore, but I think people are really way too lofty and they're way too up in the clouds about what Sky Moore is going to do his rookie year. It's a bit of overpay, but Robbie Anderson is 29. Michael Gallup's not going to play for at least first 2 months, maybe the first month of the season. And the 204 in the rookie draft is really almost as worthless as the 407 in the rookie draft this year. I mean, you can get Rashad White or Damian Pierce, or like you said, maybe you get Jahan Dotson or George Pickens. But for the 204 to have any value, you're going to have to get a good receiver. You're going to have to need a good receiver to fall to you in a rookie draft. So really all that he's giving up here is Michael Gallup. That's all he's giving up to me. I don't value the 204 that highly. I traded out of my second round picks, and I got actually 3 third round picks and a Michael Gallup when I traded out of the second round this year. And I got Donovan Peoples-Jones too. So that was kind of throwing a dart at the wall. You're asking somebody who didn't value second round picks that highly this year and who saw them in the same category, in the same conversation as third round picks. I view second round picks and third round picks almost the same. They have the same value to me in 2022 in rookie drafts. So yeah, again, I think he just gave up Michael Gallup for Juju. Really, that's all it really is. And Robbie Anderson and the 204 are just kind of like sprinkles on the donut, trying to make it look pretty.
I'm definitely not a Juju guy. I think he's going to do well in Kansas City this year. But I mean, he might only be in Kansas City for 1 year. And I know he had the injury, but the last 2 years, he hasn't gotten that big deal from anyone. I just think he's limited. He plays a role well, but I'm just not in love with that. And with the 204, I actually in the middle of the second round, there's some receivers I really like that. I've been picking up John Mechie a lot. I think he was dropped down because of that injury
in the second round. I got him in the third round.
Oh really?
He's going in the second round, John Mechie?
Yeah.
That's high.
I'm taking him in the second round because I don't want any of those running backs, and that's my opinion. I think right. I think he would have been a dynasty first round pick if he wasn't hurt, because I think he would have gotten picked higher.
Probably, yeah. He'd probably easily been a second round pick. Yeah. Yeah. As far as Juju, us not knowing if he's going to be there next year, I think it's a gamble worth taking just because of the offense that he's on. Travis Kelce is he's slowing down. They don't throw it to their backs. Sky Moore is a rookie. It's Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who's really done nothing his entire career, playing with Aaron Rodgers. What's he going to do now with Patrick Mahomes? So, I mean, it's going to be essentially Juju and Travis, and then Sky Moore will be developing and, acclimating to the NFL for the first couple months. Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, is going to – we don't know what he's going to do the year after this. Say he does sign on next year and Sky Moore becomes the number one wide receiver, he's still going to be the wide receiver 2 in an offense with Patrick Mahomes, where Travis Kelce is another year older and they're still not throwing it to the running backs. So I still would rather have that. I still would rather I would rather be attached at the hip with Patrick Mahomes with Juju Smith-Schuster. And I think looking at what he did in what his past few years in the Steelers, what happened with the Steelers were a little bit misleading just because of, Ben just falling off a cliff and them not really doing anything and running everything like 2 inches away from the line of scrimmage. Like he was just another version of Najee Harris, but lined up outside in the lined up out in the slot while Najee Harris got all the dump off passes. So
yeah, I just wonder if Juju is going to be the deep threat on that team. I think it might be a mix of Sky Moore and Cole Hardman.
He won't
run
be
them deep. And
yeah, he won't be.
So I think that's part of it too, because we know Mahomes likes to chuck it. So it'll be, kind of interesting to see if Mahomes continues to develop, because near the end of the last season, he started checking down more, because those deep passes weren't there. But they might have to totally change that offense without Tyreek Hill, the guy that they can consistently depend on to get, deep. I think Juju is going to be good, in the slot and everything. And Sky Moore, I think people are pushing him too far up in drafts too. I agree. But long term wise, I really like Sky Moore in Kansas City
for sure.
But yeah, I think Sky Moore. I've seen Sky Moore go as high as like 105, and that's way too high to me, because I would still take the other receivers over him. So So now talk about one of my favorite things, brunch. So our top 3 brunch items. So I'll let you go first with your number 3.
My number 3 is just classic plain French toast. I think without eggs, no sides, just French toast. I think it's just always prepared so well. I mean, it's really hard to mess up French toast. You just kind of dip it in egg batter, pour some like extra whatever special seasoning you want to put on there, and let it fry in the pan. Put some syrup and butter on it. Does the job. Goes really well with mimosas.
I do love French toast. Do you like French toast with any fruit on top?
I don't mind it. I mean, like some strawberries or blueberries. Blueberries probably are better because the syrup is already too sweet as it is. And then strawberries on top of the syrup makes it way too sweet. Blueberries have some sweetness, but it's not overwhelming. So blueberries. Bananas probably are the best though. Blueberries and bananas. Yeah.
Yeah, some places have the like bananas Foster like French toast. So that's really good. That was probably like 4 or 5 on me for my list. So number 3, I put it's kind of a combo and it's alcohol. So it's either a Bloody Mary, or I don't know if you've had the High Noons. They have a peach flavor, and it's really refreshing. It's good with brunch. And this one place we always go for brunch, they have them for $2 on Sundays during brunch. So
wow, that sounds.
So yeah, that's number 3 for me.
That would end my day if I could have a cocktail for $2 a piece. That's insane. Yeah, number 2 is like my number 2 is the classic mimosas. I think, by the third mimosa, I have like a big smile on my face. I'm always feeling pretty good. They go down super good. They're delicious. Bottomless mimosas are my 2 favorite words put together. So mimosas are definitely my number 2. If it was number, I wouldn't just make it 1, 2, and 3. Honestly, if I don't even have to eat. I'll just eat somebody else's food that they don't finish. I'll just eat somebody's bacon that they don't finish, something like that. I don't care. I just show up to brunch for the mimosas. That's really all. It's the shining star of brunch.
I will say I don't really like mimosas anymore. Not that I don't like them, just all the orange juice, because I have participated in bottomless mimosas, I think a few too many times, and just all the orange juice just kind of makes me not feel too good. But mimosas are nice and refreshing, and obviously at brunch a lot of times they're bottomless, and it's the best deal you can have. So my number 2 is actually Scotch eggs. So have you had a Scotch egg before?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's got the egg, the sausage, and then the breading around it. It's delicious. My mom makes them a lot, and at Irish pubs they have them a lot. So they're very good. You get a little bit of everything. It's not too heavy, so you can have your cocktails and everything, and not be too full. have, one or maybe two, and then you're good to go for the rest of the day.
That sounds very good. I gotta try Scotch egg next time I see it on the menu. The next time I promise you, the next time I see it on the menu, I'm buying it. I'll try. It sounds good. My number one for brunch items is chicken and waffles. It has to be done right. Obviously, people have completely messed it up. But yeah, chicken and waffles, delicious. Some if you want to throw some vanilla ice cream on top of the waffles and mix that up with the chicken, delicious. And the chicken has to be seasoned right. It has to have a right amount of salt. You can't just and I don't want that air fried shit. I want deep fried chicken and waffles, right? I don't want I've had air fried chicken and waffles. They're fine, but I want the deep fried chicken and waffles. It's my number one. You can eat that, and then mimosas to wash it down, to cleanse the palate.
I have never heard of putting ice cream on top
of waffles.
Of chicken and waffles. I've never seen that.
Well, you've never even heard of chicken and waffles? The meal?
No, I've heard of chicken and waffles. I've never heard of people putting. You said ice cream on top of it, right?
Well, the waffles would be have their own portion sets, their own territory. Or the chicken would be over here, and then you would just kind of put ice cream on top of the waffles.
Okay. Still, because usually when they prepare it, they don't necessarily do that.
Put ice cream on top of the chicken. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's not like it's gonna be bad. Those are two good things.
I agree. Those are three things I like. So I mean, I would
put ice cream. What can you put ice cream on that's gonna make it bad?
I mean, I would think if you put them on baked beans or a hot dog.
Nope. It's gonna be good every time.
Oh, okay. My number one is a Eggs Benedict, especially a crab cake Eggs Benedict. So good. I'll tell you, the best crab cake Benedict I've ever had is in the Baltimore airport. They because they have all the seafood up there. It was an amazing crab cake Benedict when I was waiting in the airport. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Benedicts of all kind, but especially the crab cake Benedict.
Have you tried making Eggs Benedict?
I have not. I've never tried to poach an egg.
It's not hard at all. I did it one time for my fiance for Valentine's Day 3 years ago. Binging with Babish, the YouTube channel?
Yeah.
So he teaches how to make Eggs Benedict on there, and it's not difficult at all. You just go to the store, get some English muffins, get some sliced ham, or whatever you want. You can do all, but English muffins have to be a must, and the poached eggs have to be a must. Whatever protein you want to put between that, up to you, or however you want to dress it up. But poaching the egg, not a difficult technique at all. Not a difficult technique at all. And making the hollandaise sauce, not a difficult technique at all. Very easy. It seems very intimidating, but it's not. And the feeling of poaching an egg and serving it up to your significant other is the best feeling in the world.
All right, I'm gonna have to try that now.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
I always thought it was going to be too hard. So
I'll send you the link.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
Now finish up the show where I think for one of your players, there's definitely going to be disagreement, but our fourth or fifth round rookies, we like to stash. So I'll let you start it out.
Yeah, we'll just get the elephant out of the room. We'll talk about the elephant in the room. Snoop Connor is one of the guys I think I like stash, and he's not even going he's not even being drafted really. Maybe by fanboys like me. Snoop Connor. So my whole thing with Snoop Connor is this, right? I don't think he's this super flashy running back, but I think he runs a lot. But I think there's game speed and then there's just combine speed, right? And game speed is completely different than combine speed, right? Then just raw speed. Game speed, it just things translate differently. The way you process things psychologically, when you see things, your body reacts differently in game with adrenaline going. Things are different. It's a different context, right? People act differently in different environments, right? Snoop Connor, he runs with pretty good burst. He's going to be going. The Jaguars traded up 2 6-round picks for him to move up to the 5th round and get him, right? I wasn't even expecting him to get drafted. I thought he was going to be UDFA, but they obviously wanted him bad enough. It raises some concerns about James Robinson's Achilles tear, which it's an Achilles tear. I don't think he's going to be ready in time for the season to start. So Snoop Connor is going to be going into a backfield with a head coach who's infamous for, utilizing running back committees, right? And again, Travis Etienne is going to be the lead dog. I have no delusions about that. Travis Etienne is going to have anywhere from 60 to 65% snap share, but Snoop Conner is functional. Snoop Conner can get those good, tough yards. Snoop Conner is very good. Snoop Conner can catch the ball too. He can catch the ball away from he can catch the ball away from his body on swing passes. I've seen him do it. He's quick enough around the corner. And what I really like about it is that because I believe in his skill set, in his functional skill set, that he's not going to be any like a RB1 in fantasy football anytime soon. But for a guy that you can get off the waiver wire after your rookie draft or as the very last pick in your draft, he's gonna have some film. He's gonna put some work on film, right? And people are gonna see that film, right? Coaches are gonna see that film, right? So if he performs well enough, he can carve out a role. If Travis Etienne has another setback, he's gonna have another role. Like Doug Peterson liked him enough to trade 2 6-round picks and move up to the 5th round and get him, right? So he's got some belief in him. That's all that is. I'm not making any bold. I'm not doing any bold takes about Snoop Conner. I'm not saying he's going to be this extravagant league-winning running back. But for guys who are playing in deep leagues, go pick him up. He's got a path. If they've got a path, go pick him up. Abram Smith, he's a UDFA. He's going to be on the Saints. He's got a path, right? Mark Ingram's there. We just want running backs that have paths, right? So that's my whole shtick with Snoop Conner.
Okay, so I'm going to state this first. I don't even know what the Jazz were doing because they traded back and then they traded up. And I don't even know. Just everything the Jazz did, I just confused me. So just because they liked someone, we've seen they've drafted horrible in the past, so that's another thing. And some of your points I do agree with. I just think he's going to be like, that second guy kind of. I replied to you on Twitter about this, but like the Chargers, they keep on drafting those guys in the 4th or 5th round to be the supplement for Austin Eckler, that kind of role, which is probably similar. I think Etienne might run the ball a little bit more, but similar to what they did. But they keep on drafting these guys in the 4th or 5th round. So the thing is, say Snoop Conner is like, okay, he's okay, does fine. But who's to say that Jets don't pick another running back the next year? That's my only thing. Is I just don't think he's going to do enough in this role to stay running back 2. I think this was insurance policy, and they needed a third running back because Raquel Armstead isn't any good. So they did need a third running back. And with Etienne's injury and J-Rob, I get it. So I was floored he got drafted that high. I think, I don't think he's a bad player. There's, like you said, I think my thing is I would rather put my lottery ticket on other running backs over him. Like you said, Abram Smith, Jalen Warren from Oklahoma State went to Pittsburgh.
He was a UDFA.
Yeah, UFDA. And I know obviously Snoop Conner got drafted, but some of those UFDAs I like better, and I think possibly have just as good a situation to be the running back too, because I think James Robinson won't be ready. But who knows? Who knows what'll happen? But but definitely he have that kind of role. And I think another thing is I don't know how many goal line carries Snoop would even have if he's the goal line back, because I don't think the Jaguars improved their offense very much, especially the wide receiving core. It's probably good. There's still going to be a mediocre offense, so that's another part of it for me.
Okay.
So my first, I'm going to go with a tight end, Cade Otton. He, I was big on him before the draft, and he's going 4th or 9th when he drafted in some of my rookie drafts. He's going to Tampa Bay. I kind of said that the way let me say on Cade Otton, production wasn't super high at Washington. They didn't have a great passing game, so I'm just basing this on the situation in Tampa Bay, tight end wise. And the traits I did see on film. He seems like a pretty good blocker, fairly fluid, in routes, and has good hands to catch the ball. could be like, if Gronk plays this year, maybe next year, or Gronk doesn't play this year, take, obviously he's not Gronk, but, that kind of role with Tampa Bay. And we know, with a Tom Brady offense, they're going to throw the ball all over the field. And, he will target the tight end. So, especially in the tight end premium leagues where you're looking for those tight ends that, outside the top 12 that you can play, Cade Otton is one for me.
Yeah, I like Cade Otton. I actually had him on my list, but took him off for somebody else. But I do like Cade Otton. Cade Otton came up on my radar last year in the offseason. I was looking at some random stat on another analyst's site, and he just came up on my radar. And I like Cade Otton. I think actually he's with Bruce Arians out of there and him being such a stickler with the tight ends. I think he's kind of ready. He's got his blocking down really well. I saw him, blocking against Aiden Hutchinson one year and last year against Michigan, and he held his own pretty good against Aiden Hutchinson. So yeah, I like Cade Otton. My second guy is Kyle Phillips, Tennessee Titans wide receiver, ranked in the 5th round, drafted in the 5th round, I believe. Wide receiver out of UCLA, shared the field with Greg Dulcich. Kyle Phillips is not the most athletic. He profiles as a slot receiver, not the most athletic slot guy, but he is a tough guy. He runs very difficult. He's a very smart receiver. He seems like he has a good prowess for running routes, like very technically sound. He's got a few things to clean up on. He's very dancey, like in the middle of his routes before he even gets to his stem. But he's going to be, he profiles as a typical slot receiver. In 2021, in the 11 of 12 games he played with the Bruins, he accounted for 48% of their touchdowns in 2021. He had 10 touchdowns last year. That's 48% of their touchdowns in 11 games. So, he is a touchdown producer. He can get the touchdowns. He can, fight through tackles and play good in the middle of the field. So I like Kyle Phillips as a great 4th round, 5th round pickup. Very excited about him. I want him on all my teams.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one because, outside of Treylon Burks, and they have Robert Woods, but who knows how he'll come back, and they definitely need some more, receiving there. So my second one is Ty Chandler. He went to the Minnesota Vikings in the 5th round. I was surprised the Vikings picked him, but the negative is he was in college for 5 years, so he was an older prospect. He's at Tennessee for 4, and then he transferred to North Carolina last year. He had his best year in rushing yards and receiving. He never went over 200 carries, so not a ton of wear and tear. But I just like him. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. He runs very hard. And in Minnesota, I believe Andrew Madison, I think this is his last year on contract, so there's talk that he could go somewhere else. And then, Dalvin's not getting any younger. Even if, Dalvin's there, be the second running back. And we know Dalvin usually is, locked in for missing 3 or 4 games with some kind of injury. So I definitely like Ty Chandler a lot. And I think he went to a fairly good situation where he could get some playing time, some maybe this year, but next year, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Alexander Madison is going to be on the last year of his contract this year. He's probably going to be a free agent and go sign somewhere else, cash out. And Dalvin Cook's always injured. Ty Chandler is one of the faster running backs in the class. I think he put up a 4.38 40 time. He had a 110.9 speed score, which is very good. You want your running backs, if you're building a profile for like a top 18 dynasty running back, you want your running backs to have a speed score over 100. He had 110. Burst score was below average. His dominator rating was average. Yards per carry in college, average. Not a big receiving profile. And his first 1,000 yard season was when he was a senior. So not much. He's still a project, but he is a step up over the other guy they have back there, Kene Nwangu, who's a very athletic guy. So, I take Ty Chandler over Nwangu. And if Chandler, he's one preseason. If we ever do like when we do a preseason show, guys to watch, I think we could put Ty Chandler on that list. Give people a reason to watch preseason football, and Ty Chandler will definitely be somebody to have your eyes locked on. My third guy is Chigoziem Okonkwo of the Tennessee Titans. Chig, man. This guy, he was deployed as he went to Maryland. I think basically what Mike Vrabel sees in this guy is the second coming of Jonnu Smith, right? When you're looking at how Chig was deployed at Maryland, it was comparable to how Jonnu Smith was deployed with the Titans. You saw Chig run a lot of seam routes out of the slot. You saw him use as a halfback, running a lot of jet sweeps and motions, and take a lot of carries or end arounds. So I'm seeing Jonnu Smith play on the Titans, and on the Titans, there isn't any pass catching option behind Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper is signed to a 1-year contract. Behind him, it's just a bunch of blocking tight ends, right? And Chig he ran like a 4.440. It's a tight end. This guy is like 6'2", something, like 240 or something like that. This guy's huge, and he ran this guy's insane. So they're gonna figure out ways to get him in space. They're gonna figure out ways to have him run free. Another project tight end, but somebody I think we can see glimpses of this year, and definitely if he shows well this year, he's a shoo-in for a solid tight end for the tight end one spot on the Titans.
Definitely, yeah. He, watching him, he's definitely not going to be in there for blocking. He's not a great blocker, but I think he's a good one. Kind of like every week if like you have like tight ends with bye or injury, just throw in. Hope he does something. And in best ball leagues, because I could see him having games where he has a couple touchdowns. Getting him down in the red zone. Just not a consistent performer every week, but it looks like after I even forgot Austin Hooper was in Tennessee. But because it was such a disappointing, him and
you just proved my point. Nobody even he's just not even memorable. Like, oh, Austin Hooper's there. Oh, whatever, dude, go get Chig. Nobody even knows Austin Hooper's there.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think he definitely could play that type of role, like you said with Jonnu Smith, and with AJ Brown gone, and I'm not totally sure how quickly Treylon Burks will take on. Supposedly that wide receiver 1 role with Robert Woods, like we said. Same kind of thing with Kyle Phillips. Robert Woods coming back from the injury. They're going to need guys to produce early, so they might need to throw in some of those rookies definitely early. So my last one is Romeo Doubs. I loved him at Nevada. I watched him a lot last year with Carson Strong and Cole Turner. I know they got Christian Watson. But I think Doubs could compete with him for, being like maybe the number 1 receiver there. What helps Doubs is his first couple years at Nevada, he didn't play in the slot very much, but last year he went up from like under 10 to over 20%. So, and Green Bay's been looking for a slot receiver ever since Randall Cobb kind of went down with health. So they could move him around, play him in the slot. And he had 8 touchdowns of 20 yards or more. So a lot of times they would just send him on a go route or some kind of deep post, and he would be able to make the play for Carson Strong and everything. And we know Aaron Rodgers is has pinpoint accuracy, and I think Watson still is raw in route running, but I think Doubs is more refined. And we know Rodgers is big on making sure someone's there because he shows his emotions on the field. So apparently, when a receiver drops a ball or anything like that. So I think if Doubs can perform early, he could have a definite, very, very good rookie season and be one of their wide receivers for a few years.
Yeah, the thing with Christian Watson and the whole discussion about like high RAS scores and athleticism and stuff like that, like the distance traveled between athleticism and football intelligence relative to the position that you play is very large. I think there's a large gap between them. Like you have to really a player who's athletically gifted has to make somewhat of a pilgrimage to get to being football at a professional level mature, to play and be as smart. So like Christian Watson, he's very raw, right? I saw an old tweet of mine, Jared Dokes, right? 8.26 RAS score last year. Very athletic guy. Top 17% of all running backs drafted dating back to like early 2000s, right? He's a practice squad guy. I don't even know if he's on the Dolphins anymore, right? So take RAS score as one piece of the puzzle, right? Like Jelani Woods, great guy, But everybody's saying Jelani Woods is going to be the tight end 1. No, that's not it. That you have to understand the position played in the NFL requires so much dedication and work, and just it requires everything. Sacrifice. You sacrifice your family and friends. You sacrifice so much of yourself as a person to be good at this. And you have to understand how to play the football on a mature, intelligent. You have to play football on a mature, intelligent level. So athleticism, fine. Big guy, fine. We've seen plenty of big athletic guys burn out in the NFL. It happens every year, right? Terrace Marshall, big athletic guy, burned out. Did nothing that year one. So we see it happen every year. So relax, everybody. Let's take the rookie hysteria, throttle it back. Let's approach this. Take a deep breath. Let's approach this rationally, please, because I'm tired of hearing Jalen Tolbert's going to be the wide receiver 2 in Dallas. He's got a long way to go before he does that.
Yeah, I forgot about Jalen Tolbert. I should put him on the sheet too, because I remember you put that. I like him too, and I think he's going to be good, because really I was worried with Gallup coming back from injury, and they just have CeeDee Lamb, so that gives them another receiver there. But to think that he's going to have this great rookie season is over the top. I like him as a player, but I didn't love him as a player. He has definite limitations. He'll be fine as a wide receiver 3 on that team, but I mean, he's not going to overtake Gallup, especially after they paid Gallup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's got ways to go. I like him too.
So yeah, and just the last thing, on the Dokes, I remember last year everyone was picking up. They were like, he's going to be the starting running back for the Miami Dolphins. He's going to do all this. So we see with those athletic scores, and obviously Christian Watson was drafted higher, and I think just watching the limited tape I could find on Christian Watson, at his competition level, a lot of times he just blew by the corner. I mean, they just the talent level that he's going to meet in the NFL. I just think it's going to be harder for him. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I just would come back on like your expectations. This is going to be the true year that you shouldn't. A lot of these rookies aren't going to exceed these expectations, like the Jamar Chases and the Justin Jeffersons. They're just not. They might be wide receiver 2 or 3s, which I think is fine for your first year. But some people are going to be expecting them to, blow this up. So I'll be happy to sweep in and get some, throw some low ball offers out to those people that are already ready to get rid of those rookies. Like I can already see if Breece Hall doesn't have top 10 games the first couple of weeks, people are going to want to get out off of him, and I'll gladly come in and swoop in for that.
Oh, don't say that. I just drafted him as my RB1 in one of my startups. Please don't say that.
Hey, it's a long season. I'm just saying first.
No, I'm holding Breece Hall. I love him. He's a talent. I'm not denying that at all. I'm not even worried about it.
No, definitely not. So that's the show for this week. So we'll be back in a couple weeks with some more topics, and we'll see you guys then.
Later, guys.